Hello, everyone, and welcome to another intriguing episode of A Mother's Burden Raising Multicultural Children in the United States. My name remains Omolola Adekoya. I'm your hostess, and it's been a while. Yes, I've been very busy, super busy. Busy for the past 8 or so weeks. And I want to appreciate everybody that listened in and commented on my last vlog. I am a father and single, and I had on the show Mr. Alashe. Mr. Alashe was a single father raising two children. He was widowed, and from our discussion, I'm sure so many single parents out there will be able to relate with what he said and the support he was getting, and I believe currently getting. Yes, today, I will be talking about. I probably will have to revisit values and our belief system. Yesterday was Halloween, and in this part of the world, and I'm sure in some part of the world as well, October 31st is Halloween Day, and so many children are excited about that. You know, with the candies and parents going out, escorting the children on trick or treating, and all of that. And I was discussing with some of my colleagues, and one of them actually asked me if we celebrate Halloween, and that is what brought about what I'll be talking about today. Unfortunately, my family, which I did told her that we don't celebrate Halloween, and I believe it was a difficult time. It was difficult, trying to make my daughter understand the reason why we don't celebrate Halloween, but and that is why it is based on our values and our belief system. And I remember telling my colleague when she asked me, I said, this is where your values and your belief system play a very important role. And that is why, as parents, I want to believe that when we say some things, we should be able to follow up with it and make sure that everything we say, we are consistent with it. I know that we cannot always keep our promises to the children, and we cannot always reach, meet up to their expectations, just like they cannot always meet up to our expectations, but I believe that our value plays a very important role in this. And I remember my daughter and I, when she was in the pre-K, she was all excited about Halloween and stuff, and it was difficult for me having to explain to her. And please note, this is my personal opinion, and that's where I say this is where your belief system comes in. It was difficult for me explaining to my daughter how my belief about Halloween and why I don't celebrate Halloween, and why I think, my husband and I discussed that, and we both agreed on it. And I was able to convince a little bit. I thought I was able to, but I wasn't sure until yesterday when we brushed the topic again and we had to talk about it. And, I thought she got it then. And just so she could make me stop talking, or just so I could make her stop talking, to convince her to wear an African dress to school and dress like an African princess, which was what I did. Which personally I really don't want to, because I'd rather she wear a school uniform and stop. But to her, that was enough costume. Initially, she was shy because she was the only one with a different costume, sort of. But then I had to make her believe that, hey, you're an African princess, you're a beautiful princess, And dropping her off at school, everybody was like, wow, African princess and stuff like that, which was excited for her. But that is not the fact I'm trying to bring up here. The fact I'm trying to bring up is my values and my belief. How am I able to instill it in my child and her brother? Her brother is still very little and does not really, have. I think he has more of a vague idea of what the Halloween is all about. But then I know I still have some explanation to do. But I'm glad that I was able to strengthen it out with my daughter first, who seemed to understand. And she did verbalize yesterday that she really understood. And why I am placing more emphasis on value and belief is because my values and my belief most of the time It's not my daughter's. I realize, even though she's that young, it's not our values and our belief. And that is why, as parents, as mothers, as fathers, we have to continue to instill these values in them. She doesn't see any reason why she can celebrate Halloween or go trick-or-treating with her friends. Which, number one, to me, I don't personally believe in celebrating Halloween. And God's so good, she and I, we have this mom and me devote that we do go through when we have the time. We're not religious about it, but we do go through it. And when we do, we really go through it in depth, And the writer was talking about darkness and light, and she used 2 Corinthians 6, verses 14 to 18 as an example. And that was a perfect example for me, because here I have an almost 8-year-old trying to convince me that she needs to celebrate Halloween. And here I am, a mom. My husband, by the way, was away at work. If he was there, I probably would have just pushed it to him. But here I am, a mom, trying to make a decision, trying not to be the devil's advocate, trying not to be the bad guy, trying to, make my daughter realize that, look, this is the reason why I don't celebrate Halloween, because of my belief system. I am a child of God, and I believe it's darkness. I believe it's a way with the word celebrates darkness, which is not what we, as kingdom citizens, should be celebrating. And, the writer was talking about light and darkness. That what do we have to do with unbelievers? Now, when we're talking about what do we have to do as unbelievers, it doesn't mean we shouldn't associate with them, but we should be careful, how we associate with them, and we should mind our relationship. Yes, sometimes we have friends that are not believers that we can trust and rely more on than even the so-called believers. However, in this context, we're talking about celebrating darkness, which in my own belief system and my value, I don't celebrate and I don't appreciate. And I'm trying to explain this to my daughter. And I know so many parents out there would be in that dilemma yesterday. And I'm sure yesterday is over, and some of us are able to escape it. Some of us are able to explain it. Some of us are able to emphasize our values and belief system with our children, And this 7-year-old sitting there listening to me, reading the Bible and reading the Devo about this. And I really like the way she explained it, that what has darkness got to do with light. And I made my daughter to understand that you are a child of light. You have nothing to do with darkness. And when we look at Halloween, what do we celebrate? People wear costumes, like masquerades, like witches, like demons, blood. And yeah, some people wear good costumes, don't get me wrong, like the superheroes and stuff like that. But most of the costumes we have out there is like, wow, like zombies, like weird things that you can never even imagine. And I try to explain to her that because I don't celebrate darkness, you are my child, you come from me. And she actually said something yesterday, and she said something like, Mommy, when God says something and we don't do it, how do you think God will feel? And just at that time, I was telling her to do something and she didn't get it. And I said, okay, now I asked you to do something and you're not doing it. How do I feel? She said, you feel upset. And I said, that is the same way God feels when he asks us to do something and we don't do it. God feels upset. Yes, he's a loving father. He comes, when we apologize, he forgives us and we move on from there. But then do we have, just like the Bible says, to continue to abound in sin or to continue in sin and ask that grace abound? No. If this is your value and your belief system, you have to have a way of explaining it to your children, the reason why. And honestly, while we were doing the Devo yesterday, I had my fingers crossed and I was just praying in my mind that, my daughter's heart will not be clouded with the idea of darkness that is all around, And she was able to get it, And we said a prayer yesterday that the Lord should protect our heart especially her heart, from the darkness around, so that she will be able to separate herself from the darkness. And I made her to realize that you are light. If you are light and you're going on wearing costumes and hiding your light, do you think people will be able to see the light of Christ in you? She said no. So I said, fine. So if you wear a costume, you're covering your light and you're encouraging the darkness. But because you want to stand out, you want your light to shine forth, just like the Bible said, that our light should shine forth for the world to see, so that our Father in heaven will be glorified. You don't have to cover it with darkness. You don't have to cover it with costume, because yes, yeah, you feel among. But when you go ahead and wear costumes and go trick-or-treating, that means you're encouraging them, you're supporting them, which is not my value system, you know. And going back to my colleague and I think I was able to, talk about it to her, that this is where we have to stand our feet and make our children understand what our belief and our value systems are and why we believe what we believe. And I'm also grateful to God because the Bible backed me up. I remember the Bible verse we used yesterday was 2 Corinthians 6 verses 14 to 18. Paul categorically talked about light and darkness, believers and unbelievers. You know, what do we have to do? And like my daughter's Bible put it, team. How can I associate myself with darkness? If we are the light, we should encourage our children to stand out and represent the light in us, so that the world out there will see that light and come to the light. It is the light in us that will attract them to us. You know, it is the light in us that makes us stand out. You know, it's not by celebrating what they celebrate. It's not by believing what they believe. Now, am I saying don't celebrate with them? If you think what they're celebrating is darkness, don't even think of celebrating it with them. Most of the time I have to be the bad guy, and of course I take the brunt for that, which is okay, but I really have to make her know my values and my belief system. And I hope if you're listening to this, you are able to understand or be in my shoe and follow me, and try to see how you can explain to your children to understand that because the word believes in it does not make it right. And that is another example I used for her. Because everybody is doing something wrong and nobody sees anything bad in it, does it make it right? She said no. And I was glad she was able to answer those questions. And I think I'm able to convince her, because she came home telling me that she didn't even celebrate with her friends, that she didn't even go trick-or-treating at school, because in their school they have to go, trick-or-treating within classes. And I hope this will help someone out there. And if you remember, we've talked about values and belief system. I really hope that as parents, we are able to instill continually. It's a continual process. Now, will this come up next year? Yes, it may. She may bring it up again. But then we always have something to fall back on, and that is the Bible. We can always go back to the Bible and fall back on the Bible and use the Bible to bring home our points to them. And you use their own Bible. If they have their children's Bible, what is their Bible saying about it? And sometimes I go on the internet, I Google information, I Google stuff. We as parents need to educate ourselves so that when we are talking with our children, look, these children can ask weird questions. We want to be able to answer their question. I hope this has been able to assist somebody. I used my self-disclosure, a personal experience with my daughter, to share this with a parent out there struggling with convincing your children that you don't celebrate Halloween and they are wondering why you don't celebrate it. I wish you good luck, and until I come back again, please keep staying in the Lord, and remember, these children are not ours. We are just caretaker, and I pray that the Lord will keep us until his return. Take care, and I remain yours, Omolola Adekoya. Bye.